Hey, I'm Justin Bradley. I am a pastor and a comic from, we'll say Cincinnati, but I live in Indiana, but, pretty much Cincinnati. And I'm here to talk about the album Glow On by Turnstile.
Hell yeah, dude. Welcome to the club, Justin.
Hey, good to be here, Dave. Thanks for having me, man.
Blackout in the middle of your life. Now it's a holiday. Yeah, 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 yeah. Dearly wanna fly again. The world is such a wild world. It's such a wild world. To me, it's not the same, and it's a dance song. The lines get blurred, I'm losing my soul. A little TLC, a little TLC.
All right, what's up, everybody? My name is David Stewart. Welcome back to the Full Spin Club. It is an online album listening club akin to a book club because I don't have the patience to read. Today, like Justin said, we are talking about Glow On by Turnstile. I know there is a part of this show these days where I invite people to come on the show, and then you say what kind of album you're in the mood for. And you said either 90s hip-hop or punk. And I thought it would be cool to show Justin where hardcore punk has gone in the last, 20 years or so since,
Right.
since you were listening intently. So
Yeah.
that's how we landed on Glow On by Turnstile. For those who are just joining the show for the first time, there are three main segments to the show. The first is called On a Pedestal. It's where Justin and I are going to be bringing three things that we loved about the record during our most recent listen. There is On a Spit, which is where we each wrote three roasts or three lowlights, depending on how they wanted to write it. And then On a Turntable, which is where I sent some questions to Justin ahead of time to see where his head was at while listening, as well as just kind of using the album as a backdrop to get to know each other better as people. Throughout the episode, there will be a couple of record scratch moments. There's two of them. We have the mainstay game called Hitter Full of Shit, which is where I find takes on the internet or from my own brain, and we discuss whether or not they are good takes or bad takes. And then the second minigame is a surprise that I've written for this episode alone. So we'll see when those get triggered based on how the conversation's headed in the episode. Kind of use it like the Daily Double in Jeopardy, and just bing, 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 bing.
Do I get to wager anything?
No wagering,
okay.
Unfortunately. Just your ego. So cool, man. That is pretty much it for the intro parts. So I usually ask my guests to give me a word that best describes the album in your eyes. So if you have a single word that would describe Glow On, we can get into that.
A single word. I would say it's probably, throwback comes to mind.
Okay.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think I haven't listened to any modern punk,
Sure.
hardcore music really. If you would have, I didn't know. I never heard of the group before. I never
Right.
heard of that band. Never heard of that album. And so I actually looked to see. I was like, when did this even come out? It was like 2021,
Yeah.
2020, something.
Yeah, recently.
You
it's
know?
like their most recent.
And if you would have
record.
told me that came out in 2001, 2002, I would have believed you as well. Probably,
Nice.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's probably what comes to mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I used it in a question, but it's I would call it approachable. It is as far as hardcore goes, it is definitely the most approachable, which is kind of one of the sticking points in the minds of a lot of people, as far as it's making hardcore too open, because
That is a question. So, what is hardcore? What even defines hardcore? Because when I'm listening to it, and this might be ahead of the game a little bit, but I just hear emo. That would be what I didn't know.
Yeah,
you know,
the
but
subgenres of rock.
That's coming from a very unschooled person
Sure.
in those John. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hear a high pitched voice and a punk sounding guitar.
Right.
I'm like, oh, that's emo music. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Emo is more akin to bands like My Chemical Romance and Fall Out Boy, where the messaging of the songs are a little more emotional, as it were.
I see. Okay.
Or they're a little more touchy feely, or talking about things that are difficult to talk about, that kind of stuff, or whiny. But hardcore is more short songs, big chugging riffs, and a lot of anti-establishment stuff I've noticed in like, you know, like really hardcore scenes. And like, I would say like songs that you can mosh to are usually like kind of what defines hardcore.
Got you. Okay. Learn something new every
Yeah.
day.
So, I mean, also I'm curious, I'm just going to jump right in. Did you like it?
It was okay. It's not, I mean, it's not necessarily my go-to style of music, right? So, like, I mean, I just don't necessarily go in for that whole genre, which is why I know next to nothing about it, probably. But I mean, I didn't hate it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, I listened to it 3, 4, 5 times probably now. Checked it out at the gym. You know, I was working out this morning. Actually, it was not bad. You know,
Yeah.
It has enough umph in it. You know what I mean, to keep me going. So it wasn't bad. You know, I would, you know, I would be in the mood to listen to it again sometime.
There was something that tickled me about recommending Turnstile to a pastor. Like that was just like, I was like, this will be fun.
What is it? So I don't. So I still know nothing about the band. I haven't looked anything up about them. So what?
They're of the Baltimore punk scene.
Okay.
And they are probably the most decorated and like most accepted and celebrated hardcore band recently. Like they're the ones that like really pushed the genre into the mainstream a bit. They are like, they started doing like really small, like this is inside baseball in Cincinnati. Our small venue is called Bogarts. So like they started out as like small venue band, and like it always seems way rad to like see them in a small venue, but they've recently doing arenas because they've been that popular.
Really?
Yeah.
And I've never heard of them until you sent me that album.
Yeah. Well, which is like fair. Like it's like that popular within certain, you know, sects of music. Like I don't think that like the pastors of the world have reached this yet.
Yeah, for sure. I could probably name 10 pastors who do arenas that you've never heard of.
Fair. Like I only know Joel Osteen, so, or the Righteous Gemstones, and they're fake.
Yeah, but they are awesome.
Yeah, they're awesome. That show rocks. What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us on this journey of listening to full albums. I'm so grateful you're here. Please like, comment, subscribe. But in a second, let's go ahead and talk about our sponsor today, Worse Help. Worse Help is a platform for struggling artists to get on and get terrible mental health advice. It is the opposite of other telehelp therapy sessions where you, the struggling artist, are going to be put in a terrible headspace, because what makes great art? Being mentally ill. We're so grateful to have them as a sponsor, because I know as an artist myself that when I'm in a terrible headspace, I make my best work. So please go to the link in the description, go get you some terrible mental health advice, and go start making your best work. You will get 25% off your first session, and thank you so much again for tuning in. Let's get back to the show. All right, man, cool. So I think that brings us to our first section. It's On a Pedestal. It's where we bring 3 things that we enjoyed about the record. Mine are usually song-specific, but they can be anything about it that you liked. Do you have a first one you want to dive into?
I just, to go back to what I said, I did like the throwback. I can't remember the names of the songs, but there was a couple of songs that like I was listening to, and I was like, oh, that sounds like the Offspring. Like that really reminded me of like an Offspring riff, and I was like, okay, that's cool. So I liked that for like a modern, 2021 album. That somebody who's grew up in the 90s and is such a 90s music guy was like, oh, this sounds like the stuff I went to high school with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I like that aspect of it. I mean, that's the number one thing I can think of. I liked the fact that can I check my notes?
Oh, please do.
Is it okay?
Oh, absolutely.
Is that unprofessional for the pod to double check? Because I just don't want to forget stuff, because I'm too forgetful.
Yeah, I appreciate that you liked that element, because like I chose Turnstile because they are like, and like I get into this later on a turntable, but like heritage and like lineage in the punk scene is important. And so the fact that like you were able to pick on the like those 90s sounds, I'm like, that's like kind of why I chose it, because like I knew you'd recognize the vibe based on what you like put in your like form to come on the show. And so I'm glad that you picked up on it, because that does validate my choice.
Yeah, right on, baby. And so I like that. I mean, musically, man, it was all fun. It was all good. A lot of that, a lot of music like that. I think like I don't know. Some people listen for the music. Some people probably listen for the lyrics.
Yeah.
Depending on the genre, like that kind of music, it's usually just does the vibe fit what I'm doing? So that was all cool. I mean, you know, I listened to it once on a drive. Had a drive to go visit somebody. It was about an hour, and cool music. You know, it's just good to just something you didn't have to think about a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I dug that, and I mean, I really don't have a lot. I mean, I liked it. You know, what can I say?
Yeah, you're a nice guy. You're not gonna tear it apart.
Oh, I'll tear it apart. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But,
My first pedestal was the opening song "Mystery." I love that opener. I think it's such a perfect encapsulation of like where they wanted to take that band. Like it has like the really like synthy sort of like ethereal opener.
Yep.
And then as soon as you hear like the sort of like faded out guitar, you're like, this is probably gonna get cool here in a second, and then it does.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
Like, the beat drop like right. Couldn't tell you how many measures in. I'm not that big of a nerd.
it was 32.
Oh wow! All right, show me up on my own show. Got it.
That could be totally wrong.
Why does no one respect me on this show?
I thought you were a music guy.
Yeah, I know. God damn it. I just want to be respected.
I don't even know what a measure is, to be honest. I just threw a number out.
32 is a good number to put out there.
Sounded like a good beat.
It's in 4/4. Like you were probably right. Like 32. I don't know. Like, but yeah, no, that's like the opener is so great. I love like that song a lot. I think it's like as far as like the nerdy bits that come into like when you're thinking of albums as a whole, you're like, it's good to have an opener that definitely like encapsulates the vibe of the entire record. And I think they did a really good job choosing to put this one first.
I agree. Now you say that, that was probably the first song. "Mystery" was probably one of my favorite ones, and then there was another one. I think it was called TLC. Maybe,
Oh, okay, yeah.
That I thought was just had it was real kind of gritty. You know what I mean? It was like I dig that.
They were going to their roots on that one.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I like about that style of punk, or even like that 90s like East Coast, you know, Wu-Tang, you know what I mean, and the RZA, like that sound, that just gritty vibe is what almost always drives me to anything.
Yeah. Whether
it's TV or music, I've just always been drawn to that, like, you know, a little bit less polished, a little bit like, hey, we're just gonna plug in and go and
DIY sounding.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate that a lot too. Like one of the things that I love about bands like Turnstile is like it sounds like me and my buddies could play this if we tried.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, there are certain like bands out there that are so polished and so like good at their craft and so produced, and I don't even mean produced as in like the traditional like negative way that you hear about it.
Yeah, they're just perfectionists.
Yeah, they're just perfectionists. It's like my buddies and I couldn't play a Muse song, you know, to the standard that Muse has set for their sound.
Yeah.
But like we could probably rip a Turnstile song if we try hard enough, you know, like, and that's like I call that approachability. Like it's like, is this something we could do? And because like that keeps the dream alive in my brain of being a rock star, right? Like the daydreams. You're like, yeah, this is totally something I could do.
Then there's like the things that are I think even the next level beyond that is like when something's so good that it sounds like anybody could do it, and then you go to try to do it, and you're like, oh, dude, this is so harder than it, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When they're making something incredibly difficult look and sound and feel so easy,
yeah,
and then you're like, oh, I can't do this. I couldn't do this in 100 years.
That's what they call the magic of stand-up. Like,
absolutely.
It's the magic of stand-up is like it makes it look so simple, but as soon as you get up there, you just shit your pants. And so that's like, it's similar, right? You just want it to look just real enough to where you think you could do it, and then you find out just how difficult it is to get in that zone.
100%.
Wild.
100%.
My second one was "Endless," which you said you don't know the names of the song, but but "Endless" is towards the middle. It's right before "Fly Again," and it's "Endless" was like one of the songs that I remember starkly from their Tiny Desk concert that they did for NPR. They did it during COVID, so they kind of got to like build their own set for it, and they used a backdrop of a famous artist where it's like a bunch of stuffed animals like on a wall.
Okay.
Which is fascinating for a hardcore band to do because it's like very soft backdrop for a very hard like sound. And I just really like the fast lyrics in that one, like the skimmity and then like just chugging riffs, like just all around great song.
Yeah.
Like if like I'm gonna attempt to sing the riff, it's gonna suck. But it's like the
It's pretty good. I recognize that.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
what you're talking about.
And like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
just hear like the tiniest little shaker.
Yeah, there's a different.
Yeah.
I was thinking about there was a couple songs like that where it's like they're doing that grimy, that guitar riff stuff, and then there is like you said, a shaker, like I don't know, maybe a xylophone kind
Yeah.
of like do-do-do-do-do. It was kind of cool the way they mixed some of that together.
Yeah, and like it's just like like
Yeah.
super tiny. Even in the tiny desk, he was holding like one of the it's like it looks like an Easter egg, just some rice in it. We're just doing what we gotta.
Yep.
But yeah, that's like one of my second favorite song off this album. Do you have any more pedestals that you want to get into before I hit you with my last one?
No, go ahead. I think
All good?
because all might kind of blend just together
Sure,
in
that's
that
fair.
in that vein.
My last one, I've already mentioned it, is Fly Again. It's right after Endless. And so we were talking about earlier that it's Turnstile can be more vibe than meaning as far as their lyrics go. But I think Fly Again has one of the better meanings. Because in an album that's kind of like all over the place as far as like this one's more of a groove, this one's more meaning. I really like the meaning of this one. It's just like getting back out there after getting hurt. That's like the headline of the song. I think that rocks a lot. I love this song a lot because in my head, I pair it with the song Pretty Little Birds by SZA, which might be lost on you, but if anyone wants to hear about SZA, I have done an episode about Control with Rashika Jaipriyar. Go check that out. I'll link in the description. Want to know why? I'm a whore. I'm a whore for this show. But I like pairing them together because SZA talks about the same themes in that song, Pretty Little Birds. It's about flying again after, getting hurt. And I like pairing them together because it's like the different perspective, the male and female perspective on the same topic.
Okay.
And if I were to direct a movie, I was like, we're doing this. We're doing both these songs together, and it's going to be awesome.
How often do you listen to a song and think to yourself, like, this is the scene of it, like, this should be? Because I do that a lot. Like, when I'm listening to a song, I'm like, okay, like, if this was the movie of my life, like, this, what kind of soundtrack would this, you know what I mean?
More often than I care to admit. I do that a lot.
I do it a lot, too.
I say, like, my second, like, this is, like, the best job I've ever had. Like, making this show is, like, super fun. I love doing it. Also, just quick plug, like, comment, subscribe. I love doing this so much. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers by the end of the year. We're so close to 50. We're halfway there. So just, like, give it a little subscribe. But of my favorite job that I would ever have ever, like if I could pick, it'd be like choosing soundtracks to movies. I think that would be the best job in the world.
Yeah.
Because like I feel like I have a good read on vibe, and like just in like also just like weird catalog of shit in my brain. I would love to do that job.
So this has nothing to do with anything we're talking about. But
Hell yeah.
So my dad was an old. He was a rocker from back in the day in the 70s.
Nice.
In fact, he was like they were just about to, I don't know if they were, who knows, but they had just gotten an offer to do like a Vegas residency in like the late 70s maybe.
Nice.
And then the band broke up.
Oh, fuck.
The lead guitarist decided he wanted to be a lawyer, and that was pretty much the end of it.
Dude, but like a Vegas residency is kind of the dream.
Yeah, it was,
like a Vegas residency is the dream. You play one place and you make a bunch of money.
what a turn too. I don't want to go into law.
You don't go into law.
Yeah. But so anyway, he's been like the last for as long as I can remember, he's been getting back into their old vinyls and recordings, and he's been digitizing them and just throwing them out there wherever. So anyway, long story short, I think 2 or 3 times now he's gotten contacted by random shows.
Yeah.
And they've used his music. I think there's at least 3 TV shows that have used one of his tracks. They'll give him, I think one time he got like a few $1,000.
Yeah.
It was an AMC TV show.
Hell
and
yeah.
So he's got some credits on like 2 or 3 TV shows out there.
That shit rules.
Just old like 70s, whatever they genre it as, 70s rock. And so, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, man. Like, give me the emails that of the dudes
I'll get them to you.
contacted him because
Yeah.
I was like, how do you get this job?
Yeah. Yeah. I think he may be working with an agent now that just like kind of has has access to his stuff, and I don't know how all the money works, but like, he kind of puts his stuff out there to guys who are looking for the show.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty neat.
That rules, man. I got to be like a sound producer or whatever the fuck the title is. I got to find this job. But hell yeah, man. I think that does it for On a Pedestal. We did it. So that brings us to, I think we're gonna do a record scratch right now because
Okay,
we've
let's
been
do it.
we mentioned a few things that I have hitter full of shits for. So we're gonna play a little game of hitter full of shit.
Okay.
So I have 3 takes that I've again ripped from the internet or came up with myself, and you just got to tell me if you think it's a good take or a bad take. By
Can I
calling
guess
it.
whether or not it's from the internet or whether you made it up yourself?
Yes, you're welcome to do
Okay,
that as a
okay.
as a side bet. So number 1, we have Turnstile is all vibes and no meaning. Hit or full of shit.
That's full of shit, man. I don't buy that. Because you were talking, I actually was looking, so I wanted this, I read through the lyrics of Mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And that's they're talking about, I mean, the way I took it, so I don't know, how old are these guys?
Younger than me, like probably mid-20s.
Okay, so too young to get the meaning of it that I took from it.
Yeah.
But like the lyrics of that were like, there's no more mystery left, basically. I've
Oh,
seen it.
yeah,
That's what
yeah.
I was pulling from it. Like
Yeah.
the mystery's gone. We've seen it all, whatever. And I'm butchering the lyrics, but that was kind of what I was picking up. And I was like, man, these guys might be 43 and questioning all of their life choices. or because I was like, man, there's part of that. I'm like, man, that's definitely a middle-aged vibe thing. So I think there's definitely some deep stuff there. But well, now that I know they're 20, they might just be full of shit. Honestly, they're too young to be that.
As a
jaded.
counterpoint, I still like. So I agree. This is a full of shit take. I've like seen it. Like everyone, like this one's from the internet a little bit. Like, but it's one where I like honestly was trying to trick you for my next one. So it's like from the vibe of the internet, but ultimately from me, a little bit of both. But as a counterpoint to like being young, I think. I took it as in like they don't enjoy the mystery and like it's like sort of a song about anxiety.
Okay.
Like because like it's like I know it's like what the lyric is like. I've got a clock in my head. Is it wrong? Is it right?
Yeah.
It's like, am I afraid of running out of time? It's like it's like all the mystery of like surrounding the future. Could be that. It's amazing, like the perspective, it's like
right,
because like it's like I love that when music like resonates with people differently, and that's kind of the point, right? It's like open ended,
Yeah.
And I think to also kind of like bolster the fact like there's more meaning to Turnstile than I think a lot of people give them credit for. I think it's because it's like a level of like poetry we're not used to. Because like I also listen to Frank Ocean a lot, and he writes really poetically, and a lot of times meaning goes right over my head. I'm a big video essay guy where I can like watch video essays on music that I like a lot, and I have to have someone spoon feed me the meaning of certain stuff.
Yeah.
But I think that the lyricist is more poetic than we give them credit for, and so like that's the cool part is that in that poetry there's like multiple meanings for multiple people, and
Absolutely.
that's kind of what makes it a little more timeless.
If you asked him, he'd probably say, "I wrote that song about a bird I saw out my back door."
Right.
Or something, you know what I mean? Like, there's no meaning to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody pulls out their own thing. I can't tell you how many times I've preached a sermon and somebody said, "Man, your message on this thing that really spoke to me." I was like, "Well, that's not what I was talking about
But
at
hell
all."
yeah.
But I'm glad that you got something out of it.
But hell yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that happened to me with stand-up once. I used to have bits about working at a preschool, and in my head and in my notes, it's just labeled preschool. Like when I'm like looking at my set list for stuff, it's like preschool. So in my head, these jokes are about preschool. Someone after a show once, after doing like those bits, they were like, "I loved your bits on depression." I was like, "Oh," I was like, "Should I rethink this?"
I loved your set on depression, Dave.
Which, like, for a good year, is an accurate statement to my jokes. But I was like, "Oh, I should." Probably think a little more about like what's actually landing with people about these.
That's very funny.
Just funny little preschool bits.
Yep.
I was like, oh.
The real always comes through.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what you think, no matter how good you think you're hiding it, man, people can see it, and that's
people.
why it's always, I think, better just to be real and honest as you
Right.
can, because you're not fooling anybody.
Yeah.
Almost never.
I speak to authenticity as well. Like the room can smell it.
Absolutely.
If you're cooking a joke and you're trying to work it out, it's best to go with what's most authentic to you, because like the crowd knows when you're kind of putting on an act.
Yeah,
and like it's
absolutely.
inherent, like it's something in us, we can tell. And so it's just, I don't know, be authentic, do it, fuck it.
100%.
Yeah. And then sometimes that authenticity just means that you write jokes about depression when you're sort of not.
Yeah, there have been times I've been putting together a set, and I'm like, and every punchline ends with me like beating one of my children. See, and I'm like, wait a minute, okay, this whole then I'm I'll take a step back and be like, okay, wait a minute.
Yeah.
To the outsider, this just sounds like you want to beat the hell out of your kids.
I'm just living,
which I might want to at the time,
Yeah.
but like, okay, wait a minute, maybe that's not the brand I want to go for.
I'm a walking stereotype of rural pastor.
Oh, God help me.
All right, second take. Alien Love Call, and this might go over your head because we're not best on titles I've known. So Alien Love Call is one of the most poignant songs about loneliness that I've heard in a while.
I don't know.
All right.
I
It's
can't remember. I can't think of that song specifically.
It's one of the slower ones, very light strings, like light guitar part, just kind of, and he's like, can't be the only
Okay, I recognize that hook.
one."
Okay, yeah. What was the take?
It's that it is one of the more poignant songs about loneliness I've heard in a while.
Well, I'm gonna say, for me that doesn't hit, so I'm gonna say full of shit on that just because I didn't remember it,
Fair.
so it didn't hit me at all. But I'm sure it could be for somebody.
Yeah, like me.
is that your take?
This is my take. I think it's interesting. So I have a theory that I've spoken about on this show before, where it's like art, like good art, is like a beacon to find your people. Because I think ultimately, like the people that feel compelled to make stuff is because no one around them really gets their vibe, and so this song speaks to that, like sort of theory I have, where like he's literally like calling out, he's like, I can't be the only one, and it speaks to that sort of like like just like the idea that like your work is a beacon to the like-minded people, because like I've felt that about like music in general. Like it's like this very lonely person created this record in a basement somewhere and I'm hearing it over the internet and I'm like, I fucking get you, my guy.
Yeah.
Like, and you kind of like get to connect with a community on some level because of the internet. And
Absolutely.
I think about that with like jokes and stuff, how like me getting up there and talking about the stuff that I talk about, even if it is, you know, misread as a depression joke, it's still connected with that person who's like, I felt that way before.
Right on.
And that's like the cool part.
Yeah.
So that is why I thought about that.
Yeah,
So.
I get it. That makes sense. I mean, I might have to go listen to that again because I often relate to feelings of loneliness
Right.
myself in so many like because I'm a pastor and I love Jesus and that's that's what I've built my whole life around, but I don't consider myself, at least, and very often am not let me put it this way. If I'm in a room full of pastors, I usually feel very uncomfortable. Sure. I'm always like, I don't fit into this group.
To be honest, I think that's a better way to feel. Like,
do
you really want to be friends with these guys?
Listen, we could talk about that I could talk about that for 2, 3, 4 hours. But and then pursuing comedy, I get that as well. I'm like, okay, whether it's like, dude, this is a bar full of 20-year-olds, all doing getting high and trying to get laid and talking about the apps, dating, you know what I mean? And I'm coming, I'm like, hey, kids are kind of weird, huh? Whatever. That's how And so
my son beat me at basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys get that, right?
It's like, we all hate our dads.
Yeah. So I have definitely felt on an island many times. So I definitely get at least that feeling if I didn't connect with it in that song.
Yeah. That is like, I kind of like ripped that sort of like specific to music, being like a vehicle to like feel less alone. I ripped that from my favorite author, like Hanif Abdurraqib, guy out of Columbus, big prolific music writer. And he talks about how like he found his love of music by feeling ultimately kind of lonely. And I was like, I get you.
Yeah.
Like, I get you for sure. Because, like, you're just looking for people who get what's going on in your head. And a lot of times music is like, there it is.
Absolutely.
Like,
and I think music, too, can connect people because you don't, like, you can feel something through music that you don't you don't know how to give words
Right.
to, right? It's
Well-
like, I don't know how to describe this or dig deep enough to find the way to like, but I feel whatever that is.
Yeah,
you
well,
know?
feelings are so much more complex than people give them credit for. Like more complex than words alone can like explain.
100%.
And so like having sound as part of it, or like even like the sort of enigmatic nature of poetry in general, like lyrics, like the way you put words together, but as with the sound, because like it adds to that complexity. Like it might be like a harsh lyric, but if you put it to like a softer backdrop, then like it shows that complexity of like the duality of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like, so that's why music rocks, is why I do this for fun.
Like and subscribe, guys.
Yeah, like and
This is
subscribe,
what-
because
this is
right
what it
now
is.
I'd love to be like, do this for work. But yeah, so that's number 2. Number 3. This band took hardcore too deep into alt rock and has weakened the brand of hardcore overall by letting too many normal people enjoy it.
I think that hits. I think
Yeah?
I think there's something. I understand this. I don't necessarily
sentiment.
agree with it, but I understand where he would get that, because when you say hardcore to me, I'm thinking more like
Yeah.
that's and maybe that's not what it is, but that's at least what it triggers in my mind. So to have like the kind of the just for the lack of a better descriptor, like that Fall Out Boy kind of vocals, I do get where that would come from. If you're like a hardcore purist, you know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Yeah, I also have to agree. It's like I give it a begrudging hit. Like
You don't want to agree, but
yeah,
you get
I don't
it.
want to, but I get it, because like there are like they'd call them gatekeepers, right? Like stop enjoying this thing I like, and like, or like in the alternate perspective is like stop weakening the thing I like if they're talking to the band themselves. Like stop weakening the thing. Like stop bringing these normies in here. There were memes for a while where like it was the picture of Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie dressed in their Barbie shit, and they're like Turnstile fans showing up to a to a show, and like because like it's like kids who are angry but also like neon, like and so like I get where this person is coming from, and like. But also, I'm like, come on, man. Like I think.
Yeah, that's just somebody that's just somebody that's like, this is a thing that I love and I want it to stay this way.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't want anything new. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And that, you get that. That exists. That sentiment exists. I don't care what.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care if you're in the business world. I don't care if you're in the church. Or I don't care in comedy. I mean, it's like, well, this is comedy, or this is church, or this is the thing, and so
Right.
anything that is changing this thing that I'm into, I feel defensive over. That we got to get past all that, or else it's just gonna end. The world passes you by,
Right.
and you're stuck with something that was cool 20 years ago.
Well, is this like a direct like contradiction to like a conversation I had in the last episode with my friend Max about Bleed American by Gimmie Eat World, and he brought up like the great point, because like I spent the entire episode just messing with him about like how I think that album is weak and like it should have gone deeper, and it's like mid, but it's like one of the most formative albums of his like early years, and because I don't respect him, but I that's how Turnstile feels to me like now. Is that so he made the point that like having like sort of like a weak sauce pepperoni pizza of emo, which is like what I was calling Gimmie Eat World, is good for bringing new people into the genre. So like you get like it's a good gateway band, and I think Turnstile is a good gateway band as well. Like if you want your genre that you love to survive, you need people that like kind of go out of its like limits for a bit just to like get more people interested.
Absolutely.
Like you can hear, like I'm sure like there's a kid out there that hears Turnstile and hears those heavier elements, and they're like, what are some bands that are heavier than this? And they find like the lesser, like the not lesser, but the smaller acts that are like real thrashy. And so like now they have a new fan.
What's hilarious is this is the same argument that people will have against like a Joel Osteen, right?
Yeah.
Like your hardcore, fire and brimstone preachers will be like, Joel Osteen is not a real preacher because he smiles and because millions of people tune in and listen to him.
He weakens the brand of God.
You're right. That's what it is, right? But then the argument is that it was like, how many people is he introducing to any sort of Bible or any sort of idea of church or Jesus or anything? Whether I'm sure I could pick all kinds of things apart that I disagree with or wouldn't do or whatever. But like you said, is giving it to a broader audience,
Yeah.
And some of those people are going to go, oh, I like Turnstile, but the rest of the hardcore stuff, whatever. Some people are going to go, man, I love Joel Osteen or whatever, but the rest of that, I don't know. But then some people might go, you know what? This is opening my eyes up to a whole nother type of deal,
right?
And now I'm exploring more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you kind of like. I think a lot of those gatekeeper types are just not trusting of the public to like kind of like go through like the Plinko game that is finding their shit.
Right.
Like you bounce around and find stuff. Like
who cares? Just like what you like, man.
Get
like
some patience, my dude.
Yeah. Like I can like some hard. I don't just because I like a hardcore band doesn't mean I have to like everything about every hardcore band out there or any other thing. It's just I don't know. I don't know. It's just. It's so weird that we'll find our tribes about, we're going to just, this is my thing and don't touch my thing or mess with my thing or God forbid bring anybody that doesn't look like me, dress like me, talk like me, think like me to my thing, It's
coming from like a place of insecurity, like 100%. A scarcity mindset for some insane reason.
Yeah.
What do you mean scarce? Like the most, whatever. Like I don't got time for you people. But that brings us to the end of our first record scratch of Hitter Full of Shit. You doing all right?
Hey, thanks, man.
Yeah. You're all right. You got some good takes in there. You got some good conversation out of it. I'm proud of you. I think that brings us back to our second official section, On a Spit. This is where we get to roast the album or just talk about lowlights in general, depending on how you took your notes.
Okay.
So, do you have a first roast of Turnstile that you want to share with the class?
Listen, class. This is not a roast. This is just my personal why I don't dig and get into this genre very often is because, and I'm sure the argument can be made about every type of music, but man. After a while, it just all sounds so much the same to me.
That's fair.
Probably to an untrained ear, but it just like all kind of blurs together. It's probably because I'm not as big of a fan of that style that like I don't have the ear to pick out like, well, this, somebody would probably say the same thing about Nas or whatever. It all sounds the same, but I could be like, well, he's doing this and this, all this stuff here. So I understand where that's coming from for me, but that's just my personal on the whole thing. And then going back to like just that style of like I don't dig the whiny nature of some of that sometimes. It just doesn't do anything for me. I'm just, I don't know if I'm just an old man or what, but I'm just like, what are you whining? Like, okay, you cried, that's fine, but let's move on.
Sure. And like there is something to be said about wallowing. There is, but there's also something to be said about like validating those feelings. Like I talk about this with Pup with Lee Kimbrell. But where like their take, like if you don't like whiny, you would hate Pup. Like, but that's only because like the dude's voice just kind of comes across as whiny, and they make fun of themselves like we're whining about this shit for a living, like and like that band rocks. But I think there's something good about connecting with those emotions. But I agree, you should not wallow in them. Like if you're listening to this every single day and you're just like stewing in it, that's an issue.
Absolutely.
I agree. But I do think there's something valuable about being like, okay, cool. Someone else in the world has felt like this is like burden of like victimhood in this specific moment. But my first roast is, it was cool of them to pitch the concept of the Little Merman in the song Underwater Boy.
That song did stand out to me just because it was one of the songs that I thought sounded very different, and that's why I was like, okay, this is a different sound.
There is like a little bit of variance, like you're not wrong, like but like to the more like trained ear, if you want to call it that, there's like more variance in their stuff than there is other hardcore where it is like the same.
Yeah.
Fuck the government. Like, but yeah, that was like Underwater Boy. Like I don't know what the meaning of it is. Like or I haven't like given enough thought or effort. But I was like, it just sounds like he's talking about being the Little Merman, like part of your world from the perspective of a man.
Yeah, it sounded very nonsensical to me. I
Yeah.
mean, they even spelled boy with an I. I don't know what that was about.
Oh, that's just like that's teen speak.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Well,
Come on, boy. Yeah.
Oh, is that okay? That's how
Yeah.
that's how that's spelled when you do it like that.
Yep.
Okay, I would have spelled it like buoy, like a
Oh,
U-O or something. Yeah.
B-O-Y-E-E. Boy.
But yeah, so I get that.
Yep. You have a second roast for us?
A second roast is again more on the genre than the band.
Okay.
For me is, and I guess I'll just go back to that like. So like for me that's it the roast part of it was like it reminded me of when the world changed from when I grew up.
Oh man.
If that makes sense. Okay. This is gonna
Back
be
in my
this,
day.
Yeah, this is my old man on a lawn moment.
Getting-
You know,
we're getting some boomer
this
shit.
This is what it is, dude. Yeah, this is when music began to suck, right? In the when the '90s, Kurt Cobain died and
And everything went to hell.
it was over. The Wu-Tang Clan went their separate ways, and then it's all just Beyonce and Fall Out Boy from the 2000s on, and then it all just reminds me of like, oh, this is when. And here's the thing, that's my like knee-jerk. I understand.
Sure.
It's not that it's worse or bad. It's just that it's not the thing that it's not
Right.
like my formative thing, right? So that's why it's like, oh, this doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
So now it sucks, right? So I know where that's coming from in me, but I still stand by that take.
I can see how I'm wrong, but I'm not.
Right? I'm not to me. I'm not wrong to me, and that's the only person
important.
that really matters to me. Well, that's the only opinion that really matters to me in the long run.
You don't get into comedy if you're not a narcissist. Like we all have
or pastoral ministry.
yeah, fair.
If I'm going to be honest.
I am a little holier than everyone else, if I do say so. That's why I'm up here and you're not.
Yep.
Um,
You have to be that a little bit to think that you should be on any sort of elevated platform talking to people.
yeah.
If you believe people should be sitting down listening to
Oh,
you,
yeah.
narcissist for sure.
Narcissist
It's in there
like,
somewhere.
yeah, it's not
Yeah,
trying to be
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like not me sitting here recording myself. Here,
Yeah.
come on, watch. My second roast was: has anyone flashed the bassist with a phone light to see if he's being get outed? Because the bassist is black.
That is very wild, isn't it? A black hardcore.
Yeah, it's not typical.
yeah, for
it's
sure.
usually angry white dudes.
Yeah.
But like then again with like the world of skating, getting like because like skate plays a huge role in this genre.
So are these guys connected to like skate culture as well?
Yeah.
Because I was a big skater.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
skate
90s as well,
culture.
which is where the punk
These are
thing came
big.
from. Okay.
Hardcore bands are big
Yeah.
in skate culture, and like I can see like there were like over the past like 20 years, like skate culture has like opened up to more black people, which is like great.
Oh, absolutely.
But like, so I can see the pipeline, like that would get this guy into hardcore, but like pretty untraditional. Like, and like,
It's weird that's still untraditional. I mean, as
Yeah, like,
amalgamated
like-
as everything is now,
Right.
I mean, eventually it's all just. I was talking to somebody about that the other day. It's like even like, it's eventually it's all just gonna sound the same. Like it's
Yeah.
all just you got rappers doing country music, country guys
Yeah.
doing rap. It's all just like coming together, and it's all just this like weird amalgamation. And the part of me is like, well, that's kind of cool. But then there's a part of me that's like, what even is this anymore?
it's all because of the algorithm.
And I don't know if that's good or I don't know if that's just me being old or if that's a real thing. You know what I mean?
Part of it is,
Or if it's I don't know if it's a bad thing or good. It's just a thing. It's like everything's the same now.
everyone's just trying to cannibalize everyone else's fan base.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Like that's all it
absolutely.
is.
Absolutely.
It's just to get ears and money and like all that stuff. So like all the country people like trap drums, so they're like, let's put some trap drums on a on a country song,
Yeah.
and like vice versa.
And then
We
I can
wanna-
tour with Eminem
Yeah.
and then double my fan base
yeah.
or whatever.
So everyone's just trying to like get the bag, which I get, but I also just like hate country music, so I'm more mad at them taking trap drums than I probably should be. But yeah, it is like, because like Thundercat is one of the best bassists in the world. Like, and like he's a black guy, like super great. And so it's just like, it is odd to me that I think his name is Franz, like his black, like. Not
Are two white guys allowed to sit here and talk about?
That's the thing. Like I am getting
Are
more
we allowed
and more,
to talk about this right now?
I'm getting more and more uncomfy talking about this as it goes on, because like I genuinely don't care.
Who are your favorite black people, David?
Obama. To quote Get Out, which I've already mentioned, it's like, I would have voted for him a third time.
You need to cut that. Feel free to cut that last question, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Who's your favorite black people?
I don't know. I'm sorry. I can't reach.
It's all good.
Is that okay?
Yeah. All right. Do you have a last one?
No, I don't have a third one.
My last one is...
It's all just the same. It's all the same stuff for me. I couldn't pick out three.
Yeah, my last is the line, "You really have to see it live to get it," from the song No Surprise, sung by the bassist. Needs some asterisks, because seeing them live to get it would have to happen in a small club venue, because I saw them live in an arena when they were opening for My Chemical Romance, and it was not, wasn't hitting the way that it would in a small club.
Really?
Like, this would be way more fun in a small venue. Like, and it would be exhausting for them to do, as well as like not financially best to, like, you know, only play small venues. But like, I would argue that seeing them in arena is not going to do it.
I would argue that there's almost nothing. Everything you do that is done in an arena is probably better in a small venue.
Yeah.
Everything. I don't care what it is, whether it's comedy or music or even preaching. I mean, you know, you go to a giant mega church and there's 6,000 people in the room.
Yeah.
It can be very cool, but being in a small room of 200 or 300 people for I think anything is almost always going to be a better experience for the user,
right?
For the customer, consumer, whatever.
Yeah, and just like the small club shows will be just wild, like, and that's like what would make it so cool, like, because like you can't really get that wild in an arena. Like, granted, like I'm not spending money to be down in the pit.
You're not down there moshing.
No, like, so like it was just kind of weird to be sitting in this like hockey arena.
Are people moshing at this? Is this mosh music?
Yeah. People thrash around. Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't make me want to mosh. It's not like a mosh vibe for me.
Oh, I kind of like kick around a little bit. When I'm listening by myself, not at the gym. All right, man. That's my last one. I just like again, they just opened for like a very tired My Chemical Romance, and I think it was like an underwhelming show in general. Like, My Chemical Romance is like in their 40s now. Yeah, and like they're like got kids and stuff. Man, I don't want to do this anymore. It was like right after COVID, kind of like let up. Okay, and gotcha. I think they had scheduled that tour pre-COVID, and they were very excited.
They had to honor their commitment.
And then they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. We just lived through a pandemic.
Yeah.
But that was all right. All right. I think before we get to On a Turntable, we're going to hit our second record scratch of the day here. Let's do that. This is a mini game called What's Up with Baltimore? In parentheses, why are y'all so angry? Because they have a very prolific hardcore scene. And,
really?
And that is like where this band is from. And so I think we're going to have I have 6 examples of things that I think might be getting under their grill, as far as, and then we're going to kind of like power rank them. Okay. We're going to do, I don't know if you've seen those tier videos where it's like, this is an S tier reason why, like that, they're angry in Baltimore, and like, or like A, B, C, D, and E. Okay. Like, all right, after that. So you can put it I'll give you each one, and then we'll pop it in a tier of like reasons why Baltimore, why y'all so angry?
Why y'all so angry?
So first one I have here is being so close to the belly of the beast that is the U.S. government. Where do you think that falls as far as making people angry?
Number one.
A little S tier there.
For sure, it's number one.
The U.S. government. Yeah. Like, they see
that was literally before you said that. That was like, what can I add? And that was what I would have thrown in there. Yeah, is you're that close to Washington D.C.
Yeah, fuck all these guys.
You're that close to Washington D.C. But you're not involved in any of it at all.
And it only affects you negatively.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
The next one, soft shell crab.
You're angry about that?
I don't know. I'm just blind guessing about what could possibly be making these
I
people
mean, if
angry.
they are angry, if that's a reason, that's got to be the lower level.
Yeah, I'm
whatever.
so sick of soft
We'll
shell
put that at
crab.
number 6.
Is it the annoyance of Terrapins fans that really get under their grill?
Well, I don't even know what that is.
It is the University of Maryland. It's their
the Terps?
yeah, the Terps.
Is that their full name? What is a terrapin?
It's a turtle.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that was. Did you know a bear cat was a real thing?
it is. They have it at the Cincinnati Zoo.
Yeah, I didn't know until
Yep.
my daughter's going to UC in a couple weeks.
Nice.
And we were at a game, and I didn't think it was a real thing. So we
They
Googled
bring
searched
out
that,
Lucy.
found it was a bad. I realized it was a real animal.
Well, I'm
Anyway.
not sure which came first, the animal or the mascot, because there's a part of me that wonders if they created this like
Like they made
heinous
that.
beast.
We got to make this thing a real thing.
Yeah.
People are asking questions.
People ask questions like, I don't know, make it look like a badger,
but with a longer tail.
longer tail and like a bear.
So what was the thing about the Terps? What was the?
I was like, do you think the Terps fans are what's getting under their grill?
Yeah, the fans specifically, because there's almost nothing more annoying than like a diehard
yeah.
college fan.
I hate-
Because here's the thing, 99% of those, especially if they're local Baltimore people, they didn't go to the University of Maryland.
Right.
To be a fan of a place you didn't attend, like
worst.
a diehard
Oh, yeah.
bleed, that's very odd.
We see it with Ohio State all the time.
100%.
We
yeah,
see it with them all the time.
None of you guys went to Ohio State. Same thing with Michigan. You know.
Yeah. You guys didn't go to college.
There's nothing worse than an Ohio State fan. I'm just going to say
Correct.
it on the record. There's
Oh, yeah.
nothing worse than an Ohio State fan.
Correct.
The football teams, they're all fine.
Yeah.
But the fans are terrible.
No, they're the worst. They're like Pittsburgh Steelers fans.
Don't even get me started.
So where are we going to rank the chaos that is their state flag as something that would annoy them
That
and
flag
push
is crazy.
the flag is crazy.
Yeah.
Like that
They
would
don't know
push
what's
them
going
into
on.
making this angry music. Like, man.
That's probably number 2 or 3.
Yeah, number
That's
2.
up there. That's
We'll
up
put it there
Yeah.
in the B tier.
Because they don't have. I mean, their whole thing is we don't know who we are. We don't have an identity.
Yeah. What
And
is
that
this?
flag, it starts at that flag.
Yeah. Oh,
What
for
is
sure.
this flag? What
What
are
is
we?
this?
What are
Total
we?
chaos.
Don't. I mean, with Terps, nobody even knows what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be number 1, honestly. Yeah, I mean,
Move that up to the top.
you go
Yeah.
your whole life because I mean that even goes into like, what are we? Are we DC?
Yeah.
Are we even a state? What are we? Are
Yeah.
we?
We're just nothing.
Are we the South or are we the East? We don't know.
Yeah.
We're not sure.
I think that flag has to do with sailing, if I were to guess. Like, because like sailing flags are crazy, and that really leads us into my next
Okay.
my next thing is like, is it all the sailor bros and the mere existence of Sperry's that has caused them to be so angry?
Yeah, they're tired of all of the stolen valor with the
Yeah.
boat shoes.
Yeah. Stop it.
Yeah, that's enough. It's enough with the. It's enough with the boat shoes.
Enough with the boat shoes.
It really is.
Grow up.
Yeah, get you a pair of New Balance, guys.
And I'm going to specifically call out my friend CJ. Wear socks with them if you're going to wear them.
I had a pair of boat shoes. I went no socks for like 2 weeks, and that was a bad mistake.
Yeah, terrible.
Those things still smell.
Yeah.
I still have them. They still reek.
Yeah, can't do it. CJ, you're not watching because you don't support my dreams. But I might make this the fucking clip. I might make this the reel so he gets called out on social media. Wear socks with your Sperry's, please. All right, and the last one. The Ray Lewis murders and Ray Rice domestic violence. Where do you think that ranks in pushing them into make this angry music?
Well, they're angry for the wrong reasons on that one, I think, because they believe that they should have gotten
away with it.
No, well, yes, yeah. Those are innocent men that people have besmirched their good names, and they're pissed about it.
She probably asked for it.
Yeah, they're like USC fans still defending OJ. You know, they're still.
Oh my God. He was a great Trojan.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, every episode I say I'm going to do something in post, and then I get to editing the episode, and I don't do it in post. I have a feeling I was going to live edit like our tier list of these things.
Yeah,
We'll see if I
We'll see
do it
what
in
happens.
post. Yeah.
we'll see if it.
We'll see if I do it in post. It might be. I got to edit this tomorrow.
Maybe you just do a video of the Ray Rice footage
Yeah.
over the whole thing, just on a loop.
of the elevator.
Yeah, of the black and white elevator security cam.
And then I'll just for kicks I'll throw in Jay-Z's. Stop doing this in elevators. They're notoriously recorded.
That Ray Rice elevator, man. Once that video came out, because I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't hit there's no reason to hit a woman. But I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know how wild. I don't know how crazy it was getting. Maybe
Yeah.
But then you see that video, you're like, oh yeah, he's got to go. That was
This guy's got. You're going to jail now.
yeah, for sure.
Have you seen that video of the Metro bus guy? He's like, oh, you going to jail now? And he uppercuts like this lady on the Metro bus.
I missed that one. Local Cincinnati.
I don't know if it's local. I don't think so. But it's a classic YouTube clip.
I'll have to find that one.
Oh, I'll show you it after.
Okay. Yeah.
It's amazing. But all right, man, that ends our second mini game. We did it. All
did.
record scratches are now covered throughout the game. No more daily doubles to find. So that leads us to our last segment of the show, and that's On a Turntable. I sent you these questions ahead of time to kind of think about while you were listening.
Yep.
And we'll use it as a fun backdrop to, have a chat. You feeling ready?
Let's go.
All right. So the first question is, music is a very passive activity for me. I'm usually listening while doing other things, and thus it becomes the soundtrack to whatever I'm doing. Was there an activity that you really liked doing to this album, like using it as a backdrop? Or if not, what do you think the best thing to do with this album would be? So,
Cry. No,
cry. I was like,
kidding.
you aren't listening to a sad
I'm
one.
kidding.
You specifically
I'm
told me
joking.
not to give you a sad album.
Because I was afraid of where your sad albums, the depths it might take me to. No, it was all right for the gym. I did.
Yeah.
I usually do mostly like hip hop, and then I'll get into like a weird space when I'm working out, and like I might throw like a Braveheart soundtrack or something.
All right.
Like there's like
You're trying to get real strong.
Yeah, like I imagine myself at war, and I probably shouldn't say that to
It's fascinating.
out loud, but that is a thing I do. But it was all right. It was cool. Once in a while you get sick of it. Once in a while you're like, okay, I can't listen to any more
Yeah.
rap. I can't listen to any more classical, like war music. So it's a nice mix up.
Yeah.
It works. It works for the gym.
Yeah, it
does
for
work
the
for
gym.
the gym.
I agree. I work for the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other time I listen to it most is like I do a lot of pacing, like when I'm working on stuff, like whether I'm working out jokes, working out ideas for the show, anything like that. I do a lot of pacing, like upstairs, and it's good for that.
Okay.
Like, it'll get me going.
Yeah.
I'll do a couple kicks.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm trying to think of like a perfect activity for this album, just for the sake of answering. Like
Like, what is the
what's like the quintessential?
um?
Because like it may not be anything that we do in our day to day where we got to do it. I'm trying to think of like a good.
It might be a good like soundtrack to like. It might be a good soundtrack to like if you're driving to work on the day you're gonna tell your boss off.
Ooh, yeah, that's fair.
You know?
Yeah. I feel like if I were like a Rocky jogger, like I'm jogging to the fight.
Okay.
I don't know, something like that.
Okay.
I don't run at all. I hate it.
Running's the worst.
Running is the worst.
It
I'm
is
like
the
I'm
worst.
with you. I'd rather just push heavy metal around.
Yeah, I don't. So you want to jog to it on
To
your
the
way
fight.
to a fight?
To
You're
the
in
fight.
that you're fighting
yeah.
in.
I'm gonna go fight this person.
It's not going to get me hyped up to fight.
No?
I'm going Braveheart. or
Yeah,
something
you're
for
right, you're
that.
right.
But hey, different things.
Different
Everybody's got
strokes.
different motivations.
I'm gonna think on this. I'm gonna
Yeah,
keep. I'm
that
gonna
is
keep
a-
thinking. Maybe I'll come back
yeah.
around. It'll hit me. But all right, our second question here. One of the ways I would describe the sound of this album is approachable anger. Given your day job and the potential fire and brimstone nature of it, do you think there is a way to be approachably angry in that arena? And do you feel like you ever fall into that category? And what are some of the benefits of that?
You talking about in the arena of preaching?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought. This is something I go back to and think about a lot. I've never wanted to be. I've seen angry pastors and angry preachers.
Mm-hmm.
I've hopefully done enough work on myself. That's not my fate, or that's not what I am. I will say I've been accused of being angry, and I've probably been an angry preacher before, younger, recognizing that that's not really my job in that space. You know what I mean? Or in any space. I mean,
Sure.
Anger has its place. It's it can be a good thing, I think, if it's controlled.
Yeah.
And you like
It can be
let
motivating.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, every great thing that's ever happened that's caused change, whether personally or on a wide scale, it happened because somebody was angry enough to do something. But that anger can't consume us, right? And so I can't remember what we're talking about. Oh, anger in the so I mean I'm a guy that gets accused of being angry just when I'm excited anyway, because I'm loud, I've got a big voice.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, I do remember one time when I was a youth pastor for years, and I remember a teenager in our youth group came to me and was like, "Man, we always feel like you're yelling, ain't mad at us when you're preaching, you know." And I'm like, "Man, I'm not mad. I'm just excited.
Oh,
you know,
sure.
I'm already loud. So if
Yeah.
I get excited about an idea or passionate about something, it's gonna. I mean, I tell people, I order my drive-through at McDonald's like this. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, give me 3 Big Mac. You know, because I'm super excited. You know, and so if I'm getting excited about something that's like I really think is life-changing or really important, it's going to be even worse. So sometimes that comes, and I know that now. I recognize that now. You know,
I'm imagining a miscommunication where you're just yelling at some poor kid, and you're like, "Tell me you love the Lord," and he's crying. Like, he's like, "I don't know." He's like, "Why are you yelling at me?" But you're just pumped.
Yeah, I'm just amped, dude. Let's go.
Yeah, I was just curious because like I that is a world I'm not a part of. Like the preaching world. I've had my times in like the Christian areas of the world, and I've just kind of like been chilling. And I'm just curious about that world because I think like as a comic you do talk about it, and like I don't know if you talk about comedy as a preacher. I'm just curious, and so like the fact that like approachable anger, is that a thing that you would employ like in that world?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think I think that has like anger. If for anger to do, I would say that if you want a good anger or for anger to have like a good result, it's got to be approachable, because the moment it becomes unapproachable, then it's over. Whatever could have happened or would have happened from that, it's over, because you're even in relationships, even like, I mean, listen, I mean, anger is a thing that I've struggled with a lot. And I think about that too. I'm like, Justin, what have you been so angry at? What are you angry at? Like, I don't have anything to be angry about.
Yeah,
you know,
this
came
chip
from
on my shoulder,
good
dude.
family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Parents that loved me, raised me good. You know what I mean? I've literally, I'm married to an awesome wife who lets me go out to crappy open mics 2-3 nights a week to pursue this stupid comedy thing, and has traveled with me all over the country to make zero money to do what we felt like was our purpose and calling and whatever. And so I'm like, dude, what in the world are you angry? But I still have this like, you know what I mean? And so that's something I've really struggled with and dealt with a lot. It really even recently, like in the last like year or two, of just like, personal reflection and just trying to grow personally, of like, Justin, you've got to get this anger thing under control, because most of my anger has been unapproachable.
Okay.
And then it doesn't do anything. Then so I might have every reason to be angry, but it comes out in a way that's so unapproachable that me telling you why I'm angry at you creates so many more problems than even the little thing that I was pissed off about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now it's all a mess. So if you can find a way to be approachably angry, that's the way to handle it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think like, because like I've been talking about this with like my therapist a little bit about like my own anger or like my cynicism, because like I grew up in a house that wasn't super keen on anger, like so like I learned how to like suppress it and thus not express it, and it came out as like sarcasm or passive aggression, stuff like that. And now like it leaks into my comedy a little bit, where like if I'm angry about something, I'll just be like, this thing's outrageous, and that's like the approachability that I get is like, if I make my anger funny, I at least get to express it, period. But sometimes like the other side of that is like, it doesn't feel necessarily like it's landing, like, like as far as like, it's like, no, David's actually upset. Like, cause like, it's so fun. Like,
absolutely.
It's like, no, I'm upset. I just don't know how to express it. I'm like a dog when they're panting, because like when dogs pant, they look like they're smiling. Like, they're like, like deep down, they're like, I'm dying.
Or like a chimp that's about to attack.
Yeah.
He's showing teeth.
Yeah. Like,
yeah, I think that's the trick. I mean, when you struggle with anger, the trick is figure out a way to make it approachable, because when you are living in that space, and if it's something that's like a driving emotion, then it's you become unapproachable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then a lot of those things that you're angry about, whether it's I'm alone or loneliness or whatever else it might be, well, now it's going to drive you further into that thing that you're already angry about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're pushing people away for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think like one of the ways that you might curb it is like, well, first of all, getting down to like what you're angry about, and a lot of times it's like systematically based. Like it's like not even any one person that you're angry at. Like I'm angry at this situation, and like being able to like pinpoint it, the actual source versus like the person and making it like personal. It's more like I'm angry at the situation, and now like you and I need to work together to like figure out the situation. Like I think depersonalizing it is probably a good way.
Absolutely. And I think what you said too, I know something that's helped me is like, and I'm speaking like this is something I literally struggle with all the time, and something like I mean just as a like even just how vulnerable can I get?
Sure.
Can I cry if I start crying?
Please do.
Okay. Has anybody cried on this podcast before?
Wayne got close, but it's because he was talking about the passing of his stepdad.
All right, Wayne, here we go. I'm gonna shed tears, buddy. No, I don't know, but like, I mean, it's been such a problem, and like that I know that like there have been, as a father, especially with my older two kids, I was 20 something, 20. Sure. 23 when I had our first, and just so much I didn't understand about me, and just I mean that's just, it's not an excuse, it's just what it was. It's just what it is,
You're just young.
And so but there's been so many times where like I know that I have fathered and parented out of anger, but that at the end of the day, from like getting to the motivation of it, it's a lot of my stuff has always been like fear based, what I mean, like, but it's just I wrote something down one time when I was like reading my Bible, and just kind of this epiphany, revelation, whatever you want to call it. It was just like that, anger for me is usually just my fear expressed loudly. Mm-hmm. And so if I can deal with that fear, you know what I mean, before I let that for me helps a lot. It's like, what are you afraid of right now in this moment that's making you be so angry?
That's fair. Yeah, it is, like, because like fear is ultimately like triggers your fight or flight. You just might be more of a fight.
I'm 100% a fight person.
Yeah,
I'm 100.
Big flight.
Yeah, I'm
fawn. Yeah, like because I keep adding.
I joke all the time. I fantasize about the day that somebody just hit the trick. Let's go. Let's do it. You know, I'll probably get my clock cleaned, but I'm always ready for the fight. You know?
I think from the other end, like the very famous line from The Sopranos, where they're talking about depression, they say depression is rage turned inward. And I was like, ultimately, that is where, like, I was like, if I am struggling with this, it's because I'm angry, but have nowhere to put it. Yeah. And so it ultimately becomes like anger at myself. And that's, so it's like, all right, we got to deal with this, It's like, but again, it's like, it's usually fear is like the basis of all of that.
I think so.
I'm scared of this thing. I'm angry about it. But how you handle the anger is like, it's like, so you really got to peel back the layers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I agree. Fear makes people pissed. Yeah. Fear of like insecurity of like the stuff that you have, like because like I imagine like most of the angry people I see are usually lacking something. Oh, and yeah. It's like but yeah, all right, good. Are we ready for our final question of the show?
I'm ready if you're ready, dude.
All right, dude. This record, among others, makes me think of lineage and legacy. It's an evolution of the hardcore sound that has been around for a while, but also pays homage to the lesser-known acts that came before them. In your day job or comedy, do you feel like you have a lineage you're following and a legacy you're contributing to? And what's that pipeline look like for you?
Well, I hope I have a legacy I'm contributing to.
Yeah, we all do.
For sure. And I think in my world, in the church space, especially ministry space, lineage and legacy is sure. Typically a pretty big part of it. Whether it's if you trace the roots of a lot of well-known pastors per se, you'll find out that they came out of large churches, or they were connected to other guys who in their time were the Billy Graham or the Joel or whatever, insert whatever name you recognize her. And the same with comedy. I think lineage and legacy is really important. I think it's I don't have this. Like I said, there was the one lick that I was like, oh, that sounds like the Offspring that I remember.
Yeah.
I kind of recognize, and I appreciate that because I do think that's important. You know, everybody thinks they're a trailblazer.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody thinks, well, I did this on my own, or nobody. You know, and you may specifically have, but there was somebody that you saw do it that at least gave you the idea and let you know it could be done in your thing and in your space or whatever you wanted to do. So
it's your flavor, dude.
Yeah.
But like ultimately, someone inspired you to get into it, and it's not like you woke up one day and you're like, oh,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
Because like it's like I think lineage is most poignant in hip hop. Like,
For sure.
There's like the lineage of like passing the torch. It's been such a community based art for so long, like, and that like, but like. In its own way, the hardcore scene also has its own lineage, and like they get pissed when people like Green Day make it big because they're like, "What the fuck? Like you were the DIY punk people, like come on."
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like what the genesis of this is because like I sent you that video like when I sent you the album. I don't know if you watched it. It was by the YouTuber Finn McKenty. Who
I did not watch that.
Okay,
he
has a channel called the Punk Rock MBA. He's more nerdy about all this than me. And it was just like really telling because like he knew like the lineage of like all the people that would have inspired. He's like, and this sounds like this, and would play them side by side and like talk about that lineage. But he talked about it positively, where he's like, this band is like, bringing the old acts with them while also bringing hardcore into new areas of like alternative rock with their like synths and the shakers and all the stuff like that. And I think a lot of people like don't give enough thought to their comedy lineage, like of like who inspired you, what would you like to contribute? Because again, it's like I think a lot of people have like the take mentality when it comes to like comedy and all that stuff. Is like, but what are you giving to this craft?
Absolutely, yeah, that's great. That's a great way to look at it. And I think and like you get it because it is such a solo sport or whatever. I mean, it's it's your brain, it's your ideas, it's you working it out. But every one of us were inspired by somebody, and I'm sure a lot of like comedy purists, whatever, they might hate on like Joe Rogan or whatever, but like whether you like his comedy or not or whatever or agree with his takes, you can see him like he does that huge, bringing other guys up and always pointing back to the history of the guys that and I really respect that about no matter what it is, because everybody, no matter where you get, we got there. Somebody went there before us, and we took their steps right to get there, and I always respect that. And so to any band that's going to do that, anything I think is like super cool too. Even in just like I hope this isn't spoilery, but like even so like in Deadpool and Wolverine, the end credits. They do a huge montage during the credits of all of those old Fox movies, the Fantastic, all the X-Men, bunch of outtakes, and that was super cool because I mean I grew up watching those, and so I thought that was just super cool to be, hey, this thing is like we're not making any more of these movies anymore, but we definitely are paying homage to like the path they laid for the MCU or whatever to be what it is, to be what it's become. So I love it, man. I think that's very cool, and I think that's very. So I think, like you said, something that a lot of people probably take for granted to be like, who helped me, whether it was from a distance or close up, hands on, who helped me get to this thing that I love or that I is my
and then like
way
treat
to
it with
express myself.
respect,
Absolutely,
like without like ripping it off word for word. It's like no, it's like and then like telling them, be grateful, dude. Like tell them because like that's like what Joe Rogan does. He tells them, I like this, and that rocks, that kind of thing. He's like good putting on pedestals. Yep. So like, who would you say your like lineage would be? Like, who do you look up to and who do you try to like emulate in your comedy world?
Well, in comedy, let me think here. I mean, I think Bert Kreischer is like the most genius comic. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Crazy.
I said that just because I know people.
Add that to Hitter Full of Shit. Yeah.
I said that just to troll people.
And also, not once have I seen you take your shirt off on stage.
It's coming. I got to lose like 30 pounds first, but it's coming, dude.
Bert doesn't care.
Yeah, well, he should. No, So Nate Bargatze's a guy that I look at a lot. Well, I'm not look at a lot. Honestly, I'll be honest. I don't know about you. I don't listen to a lot of or watch. I might watch clips, or if there's a special, I'd be really like if a Nate Bargatze special drops, I'm probably gonna watch it front to back.
I have not watched a comedy special in earnest in so long, and it's mostly just to keep my own ideas mine.
That's the same thing too. Yeah.
And but my lineage that I follow is like that of Judd Apatow. Famed comedy producer, produced like every single one of my favorite movies. I was having this conversation recently with the girl I'm seeing, where I'm like, the day I knew I wanted to do something in comedy was the day I saw Superbad in like the 8th grade. I saw that movie and I was like, holy shit, you can do this. And like I was like, that's been it. Is like I want to do that. And so like doing stand up rocks and I love it. But it was always like when I first started, I was like, this is a way to learn how to be funny so that I can like write, the next Superbad, which like I never did. I've written some pretty horrific screenplays. Don't get me wrong.
How many screenplays have you written?
3.
Really?
Yeah, 3.
Can I read one?
No. Because I was like 20 when I wrote that first one. Superbad?
Yeah.
How old is it?
What is it?
Oh, it's a movie.
I'm just kidding. I'm just
fuck off, Justin. You dumb son of a bitch.
I'm sorry.
Why does no one respect me on this show?
I'm sorry, David.
But that is like, and the reason I like them so much is because it's comedy is the ingredient, not the entree. And like I've said this about my own work in life. I was like, comedy is an ingredient, not the entree. Like so, like I don't necessarily have like the desire to be a famous stand-up comedian. Yeah, I love doing stand-up. It's very fun, but it's never been my end goal. It's like a portion of the end goal. So it's ingredient. And Judd used to do stand-up. He like worked at comedy clubs in New York. That's like his come up is how he met all these people. He has like interviews with a ton of them. He has books, that he's written of all these interviews that he's done just because he's a comedy nerd. And so, but all of his movies have like this ultimately vulnerable plot line. Like Superbad's is like growing up and leaving your best friend.
Funny People, another one. I mean, Funny People is
like weirdly inspiring to stand up.
It actually
like,
very much is. I love that movie.
Weirdly inspiring.
It's inspiring in the way of it's like be sure that you actually want to pursue this because this is what it might. This is what it is.
So like that's like my comedy lineage is like. And that's like what I want to pull from. So like as I write, I try and like, am I headed towards this North Star? Because like you can't out the gate do this kind of thing, especially because you're learning to write jokes and like it needs like the premise, setup, punchline, all that kind of stuff. Like, but eventually I'd like to get into the more like vulnerable parts of life, right? So that's like it's like are my bits ever so slightly getting close to that with each new one. So that's my comedy lineage. Right. But yeah, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm shocked Carlin didn't cross your mind for you. Just the tiniest bit.
I mean, I know him. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Like I get like a whiff of Carlin out of you.
Do you? In what way?
In like again, it's like the approachable anger. We can go back to that. Like you do have like, and it could just be excitement on your end. But like if you were to do a bit about being frustrated about something, like I could see it being Carlin-esque. Yeah. Where it's like just like a poignant point.
So it's funny that you say because that's kind of what I felt like you were getting to because I do, and I don't know if it's like. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if it's the preacher in me. I don't know. But, like, I do find myself a lot of times going back to, like, making a point. Even if it's, like, a funny way. It's like,
thought leader.
Yeah, where, like, and sometimes I was like, man, can I just talk crap and, like, just be silly? You know what I mean?
Right.
And have some fun. Which is, but there always seems to be, it just always comes out like this. This is how I think about this.
It could be the preacher in you.
Yeah. Or that's, what came first, the guy or you know what I mean? Like,
right.
I don't know. But I do. So I think I understand what you mean when you say that. He wouldn't, I guess I wouldn't consider that just because of, I'm familiar with him, but I've never like studied his stuff. I mean, that I have anybody.
Yeah,
and I would say honestly, I would throw it back to even like a Joe Rogan or any of the guys that do these podcasts. Not so much as like who they are, their style, their comedy, but just like, I came to comedy from probably listening to like Joe Rogan's
Mm.
podcast, and I came to his podcast from bow hunting because I was
Oh,
getting into
sure.
bow hunting. That's
Yeah.
how I found him, and I knew him as the Fear Factor guy.
Yeah.
But just the idea, just listening to like the hundreds of comics just talk about comedy and talk about like, and you kind of get a picture into like how their minds work,
Mm-hmm.
and at some point I'm like, oh, you know what, that I feel like
This
that's
might be
me.
something.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
that's.
yeah.
Oh, that's like, oh, these, like, there's other people, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's how my brain a lot of times has worked too. If that makes any
Yeah,
sense
I
at
mean,
all.
like, it's interesting in the comedy community. I think about this like fairly regularly, where I'm like, wow, how did we all find each other? Like, we are all kind of similar. Like,
Yeah.
I say that it's like the island of misfit toys. Like, we all have our own weird backstories that like make us unique, and thus, because of that uniqueness, it helps, write your material and whatnot. But
those are all the details. Those are all
Yeah,
details, but like the backbone of a lot of it is a lot of like
Trauma.
This is similar. Yeah, you know what I mean?
yeah. But cool, man. That brings us to the end of our show.
Awesome, man.
Thanks so
Good
much
talk.
for hanging out, and
Cool.
thanks. I hope you liked Glow On. And just as a final reminder, like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. We're so close to our 100. We're not. It's we're so close to 50. 2 more to 50. So if 2 of you want to hit the subscribe button, then hell yeah, we've reached halfway, and we're in July. So like this will be out in August. So we're on the road to 100 by the end of the year. That would be so sick. But in the meantime, thanks so much for listening. Check out any of the other episodes we got, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.